Okay, Darren. So we talked in part one about the specialising in the non-league football. Now, I have actually interviewed a professional punter on Hunter Chases before, Mark Hill, but he's a bookmaker as well. But you specialise in Hunter Chases, and I foolishly read your preview of the Cheltenham Hunter Chase meeting after and not before, where you nearly went through the card.
Yes.
There's a lot of form out there for points. Is it a case of, once again, bookmakers not bothering to go deep enough, or do you go deeper than that form itself?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of stumbled upon Hunter Chases in a little way. Again, it was sort of related to when I got the job at Coral and I moved down south because I don't drive. So when I was living up in Leeds, it was quite hard to get to points. But I had been pointing with my dad in the past and sort of enjoyed it. So and given a non-league football, I was like, well, this, it's sort of proper race, get back to its roots. So I started going pointing a lot, and we were getting the weekender in the office at Coral, and so I was taking that. That was when the results. So I took the results out each week. Obviously, it was going pointing. And I thought, Hunter Chases could be an avenue, because there isn't really much focus on it, and I obviously had bet on them before, but not in a serious way. And again, I mentioned fighting tips in the previous section, and again, I started putting Hunter Chase tips up there as well, and sort of, this really is a niche. Like, if you specialise in something in racing, then you can put your full focus on it. So the official pointing website has videos on it, but you have to pay for it. So they're getting better. There's more and more videos going up. I know I don't subscribe to the Irish site, but I know the Irish site, I think they film every meeting. It doesn't happen in this country. But you've automatically got an edge on most people, because unless you're there, where you haven't been able to witness it, and unless you pay for a subscription to the website, you can't watch the video. So we're recording this on the day of the Aintree point-to-point bumper. So for that, I've been able to watch all the videos of the horses. Now, the vast majority of people punting on that race this evening won't have been able to watch those videos, because they either weren't there at the track, or they don't subscribe to the site. So you've already got that advantage on a lot of people, and I would presume most of the people that put prices up to start with, because they will look. So Tim Vaughan trains the favourite, and they put Tim Vaughan's runner in his favourite. Now, it's not to say that Tim Vaughan's horse won't win, but automatically it's like, well, I knew they were going to put Tim Vaughan's horses in the favourite, because it's the trainer that the traders know. So very often you'll get the value elsewhere. So you got the videos. I also personally subscribe to the loose leaf form, which Martin Harris mainly, obviously there's various other people that put the form together, but I know he sort of collects it and puts it out. And that form is more in depth than anything else that you can find. So obviously pointing form does appear on the Racing Post, but the informed comments aren't as detailed as what you get on the loose leaf, or even if you just pay for the website, they aren't as detailed. So it's the most detailed form comments you can get. And again, that is over £200 a year, so there aren't going to be a huge amount of people that are subscribing to that. So again, that's an edge that you've got on most punters. And if you're betting on racing day in, day out, everyone can see the Dante, everyone can see, how that is going to equate to the Derby. It's all there. But this point-to-point bumper at Aintree tonight, a lot of that information isn't out in the public domain. So you've automatically got an edge on a lot of people. And I think that's where that's personally where you can find the avenue. Again, it's like the non-league football. There's not as much focus on it. So because there's not as much focus on it, I can devote my whole attention. When I started on it, there were over 100 races a year. We're down into the 60s now. I don't have the time, for family reasons, and obviously my full-time job. I don't have the time to do racing day in, day out. And I'm probably not given the way my punting was before, not hugely successful. So it was like, I can actually make money out of just focusing on hunter chases, and the vast majority of my horse racing punting now is hunter chases. So it's literally just between January and May that I'm a full focus, and I feel like I know the form inside out. You know, that's not to say I'm obviously not going to find every winner, but I watch those races and, you know, go back and watch them and see what's going on.
Okay, just interest, the big races like the Hunter Chase meeting, like at Aintree, they'll have participants that have raced in different regions, and a lot of these won't have raced against each other.
Yeah.
And obviously the going descriptions are dubious and the times and everything else. So how difficult is it to correlate form for the horses?
It can be. Like, you get to know, I mean, I get, obviously maybe not the big, sort of the intermediate final at Cheltenham's probably a good example, maybe not so much this year, but in previous years, where you would have a lot of horses that have come, won't have run in a hunter chase, and that have come from different areas of the country, and you've got to then try and work out the worth of the form from the different areas of the country. And you get to learn which areas are weaker and which areas are stronger. You know, obviously Devon and Cornwall in the West Country tend to be very, very strong and still are very, very strong. Whereas somewhere like the Southeast, which is where I went pointing a lot a few years ago, probably is one of the weaker areas of the country. And you will often get, you know, your Gina Andrews they'll obviously send some horses to the Southeast areas looking for some easier opportunities. So again, it's that, okay, well, is it a lesser horse that they're looking for an easy win with, or actually is this a very good horse and they've just gone for, like, you know, trying to step it up. So yeah, it's again, like, if you're looking at, if you go to the Cheltenham Hunter Chase at the festival, you had Premier Magic, is a very good example this year, because he obviously won the race the previous year, and you saw, I saw sort of people tipping him up, but his pointing form this season was very ordinary, and you knew that the people who were maybe tipping him up, like, you haven't actually looked at what he's done this season. I know what he did last year obviously was very good, but you're basing your bet on what he did a year ago, and he hasn't actually proven himself to be in as good form this season in his 2 wins. So I was more than happy to take him on. Obviously that proved to be right in the end, but you'll often find around Cheltenham that those that aren't focusing on the race usually, well, they'll probably either go for the Irish horse, which are like to be favourite, last year's winner, which usually does end up turning up again, and that's or a Sam Crow who ran in the race this year, who used to be very, very good, but now isn't as good as he used to be. But people are sort of, oh, well, if he can run up to 160, he's going to carry these. It's like, well, yeah, but he was running up to 165 years ago. He's not at that level now. So again, you know, look, sometimes they will be right, and you know, there are often times where I will get it wrong, but I think it's definitely an area you need to specialise in, because you are watching those horses day in, day out, and the horses that are coming from pointing, I've got access to watch those videos which other people don't have.
Do you still go pointing?
Not as much as I used to, with a family, and my youngest is disabled, so that makes things tricky. I don't personally drive. Working any 5 days out of 7 in my full-time job means that if I get a weekend off, it's often meaning that, well, do I spend time with the family, because it's quite hard to take my youngest pointing on the train. And sometimes I will book Sundays off, thinking, well, I could go pointing, and then, like, look at especially in the southeast, a lot of the tracks that I used to go to have closed, which also doesn't help. But I look at the runners and I think, oh, it's not worth it. I'd rather spend time with the family. This year I tried to go pointing twice at Chazzy Corbett over Christmas, which I usually go to when I'm back at home. That got called off. Tried to go to Dumbarton in March. That got snowed off. It was about the only days of snow. You know, there was about 4 hours of snow in the morning. So I actually haven't even been this year, which I don't like. I love going pointing. I really do, and I miss not going. You know, when I was single, I was going most weekends.
And were you punting on the pointing?
Not as seriously as a punt on the hunter chases. What I like about the hunter chases is you know what's running and you can do the form. I especially don't have the time to go through a pointing card now. You know, if there's 100 entries, you have to go through all of them because you don't know what's running until 45 minutes before the race. So, you know, when I was single, I was like, well, okay, even if there's 100 entries, I was writing notes on all the runners. And then you think, oh, okay, well, I quite fancy this. And then you get to the meeting and then you find it's not running. And then you're trying to work out, you know, it just didn't really suit my method of punting. I always felt a little bit rushed, maybe. I personally would like to see 24-hour decks or bigger come into pointing. I know it's a very controversial subject in the pointing world. But I think it would make things easier. So I wasn't as big a punter pointing as I am in hunter chases. I just personally find those easy. Obviously, when you've got opens and there are horses that I've seen hunter chasing, then I can obviously have a stronger viewpoint. But if you're talking about a restrictor or a maiden, well, I haven't really seen too much of the horses. I don't want to get carried away with something I've not really got as much knowledge of as I have under the rules.
In your opinion, what do you look for as the most important aspect of form in a hunter chase?
In a hunter chase, I think I like to try and work out the worth of the form of a race. So, do I think it's a strong piece of form that's going to hold its weight later on in the season? So, like the first hunter chase this season at Taunton this year, which Regatta de Blanc won, Benny's King was in it, Shantou Flyer was in it, D'Arrran was second. I thought this is a strong piece of form. You had a horse who was 100 to 1 finish second. I was like, I think this is strong. It was a really truly run race. There were good horses in it. I thought, yeah, this is worth keeping an eye on. And D'Arrran then won and beat T Clipper at Warwick, and I managed to get on at 20 to 1 and tipped him up at 20 to 1. And I was like, I'm on the right track. So that's what I want to try and work out is what is a strong piece of form. It obviously doesn't always work. Sometimes you think, well, this isn't strong form. Like the hunter chase we had at Perth earlier this week of time recording, I thought Shantou Street hadn't really achieved a great deal this year, but he still went and won that race. I tried to take him on, but got him wrong because it was still quite a weak race, or weak enough race that he was running in. So I think that's the key, and sometimes it's sort of looking past those horses that have won. You think, well, actually, have they actually run well, and you know, going to be a bigger price because they finished 4th or 5th.
Are hunter chase markets generally more robust a bit in the exchanges and stuff?
When I first started, they weren't priced up the night before, and you would see people taking prices for like a tenner on Betfair because obviously the exchange had gone up, and you think you're marking the cards for the traders in the morning, and I almost think they were probably better priced up then than they are now, where obviously bookies do go up the night before. It's impossible for me to tip up the night before now because obviously the prices go. I did used to a few years ago because they were a bit more robust. I sort of would rather they went back and opened up on the day because I think you would get a sort of slightly stronger market then. But I don't think the ricks are quite as big as they were a few years ago. You used to see some huge ricks, and they have seemed to tend to be a little bit better in that regard.
And somebody like you would move the market with your followers.
Yes, yeah, I do move the market in hunter chases.
Is a good idea, maybe.
So
keeping your powder dry is probably a good idea.
Yeah, look, you'll see like Bet365 are often first up, and if there's a price that people want, it'll go within 2 minutes. And most of the time I don't usually look at race until the evening, the night before. So the market's already moved a little bit by the time I've actually properly looked at the race. And I sort of prefer that, because if you see a price that's almost mythical, and it can sort of think, oh God, I've missed the 6-1 and it's now only 3-1. But then actually that 3-1 is still value and it's still worth taking. But so you need to sort of almost forget that it was 6-1 for 2 minutes, because it's worthless to people.